Bam.
This is Preston Glass, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
That's right. Preston Glass is on the show today. We for the third time, and this is pretty neat. One of the things that I love to get to do is introduce people like Sage to people like you because you're looking for talent. She's looking for people who produce things, and so that's fun. But also, it's just good to check in with someone that I care about and to hear what you're doing. For those of you guys who don't know, Preston's incredible. He has produced music with, I don't know, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, Kenny G. I mean, the list is long. Narada Michael, Walden. The it's when you look back at your career and you see all these names and people that you've worked with, and you tell all these stories like, do you know this person? Yeah, Ray Parker Jr. and whatever. Do you believe that like you get to do this, or is it like old hat for you now that you've been doing it for a while?
It depends on what side of the bed I wake up on, but yeah, sometimes it's like, yeah, is that me that was fortunate to have a career with these people, and then call a lot of them my friends, And then there's the other part of me. It's like, it's a job. I have to, I'm called upon as a producer or songwriter to do a job, and they depend on me to do as well a job as I can. So it's a wonderful gift to have to be able to love what I do.
Yeah. What are you working on now?
Well, I guess I have a lane, so to speak, in the music field as a producer. They kind of know me as a guy who does a lot of what they call old school R&B, and so I'm working on right now a new project with Russell Tompkins Jr. of the Stylistics, the new Stylistics. He's the original lead singer that sang all those hits like "Bet You by Golly Wow" and "You Make Me Feel Brand New," "Break Up to Me," all those hits. So I'm doing a new project with him, as well as Chubby Tavares, who's from the group Tavares.
That's your microphone right there. Can you grab your microphone? It's right there next to you. You're right on the TV tray. TV tray, the one right next to you.
Oh, okay. What do I do? Just put this on?
Yeah, if you can. Yeah.
Okay.
Other side. Mike goes to the left. I should have checked you ahead of time. It's my fault.
Okay.
And it goes around the back of your head. And nothing goes in your ear either. It goes like on your temple and like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, there you go.
different for me.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I doing it right?
I think so. Yeah, do you feel like it's on your head?
I look crazy. Probably look crazy.
Crazy.
This is not going in my ear.
No, nothing goes in your ear. It
Oh.
goes on your temple. See how this is like right here and right here? Where was it at?
Oh,
You see how that goes?
okay.
Yeah. Now you're rocking. Away from your mouth.
Away from. Okay, probably like something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we starting over?
Yeah, we can. So just you were you were talking about. I'm listening to a stock from earlier in the show. You were talking about your current projects.
Yes, I'm working with the Stylistics right now. Russell Tompkins Jr. was the lead singer, and I'm doing a project with him. He sang all those hits like "Bet You by Golly Wow" and "You Are Everything," "Break Up to Make Up." So, and he still sounds the same way he used to. So we're doing a new few songs, as well as there's a group called Tavares. I'm working with the lead singer. Tavares had a song in Saturday Night Fever. A lot of you might remember "More Than a Woman," and they also had "Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel." So Chubby Tavares just finished his whole entire album. His singles coming out next Friday. So it's a joy to work with established artists currently like them, but also I'm working with a new girl. Her name is Terrell, and she's young. She's fantastic. She's probably one of the best singers I've ever heard. She's got it naturally, and so we just finished 11 songs with her. We're looking forward to releasing her album sometime, maybe late summer. Yeah, so I stay busy as a producer, but my first love is songwriting. So every project I produce, I try and insert some of my songs if if the artist, you know, asked me to do so. So songwriting is number one in my heart.
Well, let's ask a question then. What do you want to ask a question, Sage?
Sure. What are some of your biggest influences in songwriting and like your personal inspirations? And
What are some of my biggest influences in songwriting? Well, coming from, I was a child of the 70s, 80s. So a lot of the writers from back then, even the 60s, like Carole King and Stevie Wonder, Holland Dozier Holland, Smokey Robinson, those are some of the people I look up to because they wrote songs that meant something, whether it was a love song or whether it was a message song like a Marvin Gaye, What's Going On. You know, those were my roots, but I still like current writers. I mean, I like everything from people like Kendrick Lamar to Taylor Swift, believe it or not. I like some of her stuff because her commerciality and she knows how to write a song that can pull you in. So I try and stay current and not just say those were the good old days, but you know, try and keep up on what's happening.
In some ways, the good old days are still going because Smokey is still on the road, and there are a lot of guys who are out there working, not just deep into their 70s, but Willie Nelson has got to be almost 90 if he's not 90, still on the road.
I was real fortunate.
Johnny Mathis, still out there.
Yeah, he's in his 80s. He's starting to show a little wear and tear, but great guy. Smokey, a little story. This past year, of course, Smokey Robinson wrote "My Girl" for the Temptations, and of course, that's Temptations' seminal song. And the Temptations, speaking of longevity, they just celebrated their 60th year in the business.
Wow.
60.
60.
And I got a call from Otis Williams, the leader and the only original member. He was on the other line with Narada Michael Walden. And they said, we want to know if you can write a song with us that talks about the Temptations individually, all the members, and in the lyric mention all of them and how we've sustained and survived. And we were going to have Smokey do it, but he got a little sick.
Yeah.
And we have a time frame. So I said, wow, they're asking me to take Smokey Robinson's place. And so what was, was, of course, I believe my songwriting is a gift. So I got off the phone and, said a little prayer, thanking God for this opportunity. But then all the words started coming to me real fast. So in about an hour and a half's time, I wrote the lyric, and I just made sure that it was good enough. And I called Otis back, and he was wondering, did you need something else, or we just spoke about it. And I said, no, not really. I was just letting you know I'm done with the song. He said, what? Oh, it can't be that good. Let me hear what you got. And he loved it. So they ended up using the song. This is one of the songs on their current album called 60. I believe that's the name of the album. And the song is called When We Were Kings. It talks about the Temptations. So, of course, Smokey ended up getting well, and he did the first single, which was a duet between the Temptations and Smokey Robinson. So it was a great privilege to be on the same album as Smokey.
What's your songwriting process like? Is it lyrics and then melodies, or instrumental first?
I think with me, because I've been doing it since I was 6 years old, it's kind of like a how do I say it? It's not like I don't change my style, but I kind of have a method of. I have song titles. That file cabinet over there is full of like maybe 10,000 song titles.
I do the same thing.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What that does for me, I start like that more often than not, and that helps me not only get a frame of what the lyric will be about, but it also even helps me to kind of get an idea what the music might be about. Totally. Because if you have a song title, like I just wrote down a title this morning. I don't know what made me think of it, but maybe what's going on in the world today. So I have a title, Love Completes the Circle, talking about in order to get love, you must give love, and how that could be a circle. So I don't know why that song emotes musically maybe a beautiful melody, a ballad type, not necessarily a dance song. You know, it could be a dance song, but you know, a lot of times the lyric will come to me just naturally, but the music will come to me based on what maybe the song theme will be about. So, and that helps me. We had a song that the title was "Who's Zoomin Who" by Aretha Franklin, and just she came up with that title. By the way, I would have never thought of that, and it just spoke to me, a nice up tempo dance, but still melodic sing along, and you know, it did well. You know, who knew that 50 years later that the word Zoom would be so popular. I just hope maybe they'll get a hold of it and use the song.
Are songs always 90 minutes? You're like, is this just a process? You know, like 90 minutes from now, come see me. I'll have the lyric down.
Oh, no, not that. Well, it depends. I think depends on, you know, what I'm doing. Like if I'm not doing 100 other things, or if the project is really inspiring. There's some projects you do where I got to do this. I made a commitment. But then there's some like that was, I'm sure a lot of that came from my excitement of being, I just got a call from Otis Williams of Temptations.
Yeah.
And plus, you know, like being put on the spot, like, well, they want to see what I got. So I'm sure that if I don't turn in the goods, they'll get somebody else.
Yeah.
So it was great that they loved it. So.
When you think about, like bands like that or the OJs, all these other older acts that are even like they've either generated through several different people because they are passed on, but they still have this body of work to work with. And then whether OJ, whether band is, you get to add to that catalog. You know, it's like AC/DC has a set list.
Yeah.
How do you crack into that?
I thought about that the other day, and what a, I guess, honor that is, because I was looking at Earth, Wind, and Fire's catalog, which is unbelievable. And then I said, let me see if they have this stuff out. And there it was, you know, on Wikipedia. So I was like, wow, it's a blessing that I've been part of their legacy. You know.
Yeah, that's a special band. You know, they've done so much in terms of in the music industry, and broke barriers in terms of like, you know, that was like maybe the end of like black music as a category. Like it started to become, you know, mainstream. You had all these different charts that Earth, Wind, and Fire could get onto.
Yeah, they, you know, they produced their own music for the most part. So for me to be asked by Maurice White, the leader, to contribute as a producer, I was young. I was in my 20s, and I, for the life of me, I was like, what does he want from me? Because he and the group produced their own music. They were phenomenal. They were already, back in them days, were legends. So I found out that he just said, we want new blood. We want to stay current and get, you know, some new blood in there. So that was not only a learning experience, but it turned out to be a 40-year friendship with Maurice. We ended up writing, I think, about 30 songs together over those years. And after he passed, I got permission from his estate to release a solo, his second solo album. And we used a lot of those songs, but were demos that came on the album. So
that is incredible. What's that album called?
The album's called Manifestation, and I believe it has 11 songs. And the thing that they were, like I just mentioned, they were demos, but Maurice was such a perfectionist. His demos sounded like records. I mean, vocally especially, just had to be right on, no bad notes. And, he taught me a lot about simplicity, but then being a perfectionist, you know. And that's one thing that I've learned as a producer, you got to be careful about, because some artists are so much of perfectionists that they let it get in the way of what the average Joe would love, you know. So I had a chance to meet and be around Prince before he passed, and one of the things I found out from him, and he said, just take one idea a song. Don't try and put, you know, so many ideas in a song that the average person doesn't grab onto it. And I can see it in his music. I know what he means, because that's why he was so prolific. He didn't try. He was so creative, but at the same time, take a song like Kiss. Okay, that's a groove.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't try and do too much, and then go to the next one.
Yeah. I have one more song that I'm going to let Sage ask a question. And I'm going to let Sage ask one. I was watching the Dolly Parton documentary. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's wonderful. And
I love Dolly.
I mean, who doesn't, right? And so when she got the gig with 9 to 5, it was first like, can you write a song for this? And so she's like, yeah, of course. Like, and for her, like there's no doubt. Those guys don't know, but like she's so confident. She's like, yeah. So she takes her fingernails and she's like, like a washboard, and she's like, it sounds like typewriters. It sounds like business. And then song comes out.
Wow.
And she goes to Jane Fonda and she's like, I've got the song written. Just like that. I mean, like so
That's
fast
amazing.
Because she's Dolly, you know, and it's like a matter of the words, but for her, the words, like, this is easy, like we're just going to write these words. And she's so powerful with this. She let, Lily and Jane kind of play along and maybe write some lyrics and everything. And the whole time she knew, like, whatever, you guys can have fun, be part of the process.
Yeah.
But this song's written, and it's incredible to see that kind of talent. Do you recognize that, or is that other level for you to see that? Or like when you see it, what Dolly's done and what you've done, you guys there's above the 1% on your ability to write a song. What does that mean? When you hear that?
I know it's not a question, but it's more like an observation. And I have been there too. And I don't want to sound like, I know I'm great, but
but you are great.
I do. Oh, I appreciate it. But no, I do know what you're saying, because it goes back to what I was saying earlier. When I'm hired, they don't expect me to go, oh, I'm working with Johnny Mathis. Oh, you do your legendary thing and I'll just learn from you. No, they're coming to me for a reason. They can get anybody in the world. So you need to step up to the plate. I learned that real early on. So I recognize what my abilities and my gifts are. And I just try and rely on them and put them forth. I also know that there's areas that I'm not that great in, and I don't try and go there too much. I used to, but somebody said, there was a publisher that I knew, a guy named Billy Michelle, and he said, don't try and chase all these other areas of music maybe you don't feel comfortable in. He said, the world revolves and it'll come back to you. You just stand still, do what you do, and it'll come back to you. And he was right. And so that's why I said I have a lane, or I have a style, or a set of things that I do. And I try not to get too much into other things that I'm not good at.
Do you have any like tips or pointers for other songwriters or people who want to maybe write a song they've never before?
Yeah. The creative process, are you speaking of the creative, or more the business?
Maybe both.
Okay, on the creative process, just don't be afraid to write not only from your experience, but from others, or from your imagination, because you're limited in your experience. You know, as an artist, I think, or a singer-songwriter, that's important to really come from your soul and your own experience. But I think as a songwriter, you know, those Carole King type people, or people that can write, Diane Warren type people that can write for anybody, make sure you just write from your imagination. Don't just use your experience, because you're limited. I'm limited. You know, I only did a certain amount of things in my life, but other people have done things that I haven't. You know, the nature is a whole nother thing. And the universe and your mind is something else. So when you do that, it's unlimited what you can come up with. And on the business side, I'd say that some of the same thing, like you know, write from your heart. I mean, you know, do your own thing. Like if you're an artist, especially, or even a songwriter or producer, even though there's a trend, still believe in what you do, your style or your thing. It might not, you might get a few no's. You know, I look at examples like the Beatles and all the people that got, 1,000 no's before they got a yes, and then when they got that one yes, the rest is history. So stay true to yourself, and then learn the business of the music business so you can make a living at it, because there's been many stories of people that were successful but didn't know what they were signing or how the business works. And it keeps changing. Stay afloat of what is new or current in what the business is doing.
That was great. So much wisdom.
We have a guy that we're going to try to get on the show, and he found his way through, and he sells music to Ford, to McDonald's, to this movie. And he's a relatively young guy, but when he starts out, he doesn't think, what I want to do? I want to sell music to corporations that buy music and cut fat checks, right? When you think about your success, like we're here in your home studio, right? Platinum records on the wall, so it works. We don't get to go where we want to go necessarily when we're young. When we only know that the guy with the microphone in his hand is doing something. You don't realize there's a Bernie Tobin or, all these people that are working and doing incredible things. Talk a little bit about that and that existence and reckoning with your own desire to be something, but the thing you really are is this other thing.
I hope this answers your question. But what I think you're saying is that at the beginning of your career, you might not be at where you want to, but you make your way. So I was fortunate as a young teenager to there was a producer that I really loved his style, and so I just took upon myself to kind of seek him out. And I lived here in California, and the producer I'm talking about is Tom Bell, who did the early Delphonics and Stylistics and Spinners and all that, the Philly sound. He was the third member of the Gamble Huff Bell team, and but he was more independent. And so I just loved his productions. In fact, he was the first producer to ever win a Grammy for Producer of the Year. They started that category in 1974, and he was the first producer to win it. So anyway, I sought him out at age 15, 16, and met him at a seminar in Philadelphia. I flew 3,000 miles. My parents, they weren't well off, but they gave me a little money to go out there, and Tom said, "Wow, your music is pretty good. Keep working at it until you finish high school." I said, "Well, I could finish high school here in Philadelphia and work under your tutelage."
Yeah.
He said, "Shh, don't tell nobody, but I'm moving to the West Coast in 2 years, so stay out there and finish school and look me up." And I bugged him to death, and then he signed me as a staff songwriter back when I was 18. And the rest is history. So I started, I started working with my idol, so to speak, but I still had to sign a publishing deal with no publishing of my own. I got writer's shares, which is half of the pie. So half would go to me and half would go to the publisher, and they gave me an advance. So I didn't start out owning any of my publishing, but I owned, the other half of the pie, the writer's share. So some of the early songs that ended up taking off, I had no say of the copyright. However, I still get paid handsomely, and those songs are now legendary. And one of the things I tell people, I taught a class at UCLA and also San Francisco State when I was up there. And it's a business of music class, and I teach people that 100% of nothing is nothing. So I could have said, "Well, I want some publishing."
Yeah.
And they said, "Okay, see you later.
Yeah.
Bye," and had nothing. But I went ahead and at age 18 signed a 3-year deal, and that gave me my first exposure to all these phenomenal artists. I mean, I hit the ground running, working with Denise Williams and Temptations and Stylistics and Phyllis Hyman, Dee Dee Bridgewater, all these artists. And I had at least a cut on every album. And so people started recognizing, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Preston Glass. And in fact, it's funny. Philip Glass, of course, is a legendary classical composer.
Mm.
And sometimes on the credits, it would say P. Glass. So some people thought I was, or it was Philip Glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed on Spotify, it would have a song by the Stylistics, and they would say Alan Glass, which is my brother,
Mm-hmm.
and Philip Glass. Because I'm like, Philip Glass doesn't write soul music. He's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
classical guy. So it was anyway. That's just an observation I made. But it was like, wow, these are just names that I grew up,
Yeah.
seeing on labels. Now I'm in that world. And then, of course, eventually I got to have my own publishing, I have to start my own companies. Now I have my own record company. So it's a progression,
Yeah. Why does Philadelphia have that roots in soul music? I mean, there's a legitimate argument that Hall & Oates, Philadelphia band, soul band, is top 5 American bands ever. I mean, you want to look at hits.
You
They
call
don't
it
stop-
right now.
Yeah.
Who gave you your start? He'll
Uh-huh.
say Tommy Bell, the
That's
guy I
right.
just mentioned. He
That's
called him Tommy. That was the name he used before he was just Tom Bell. But he was a big influence on Daryl Hall. And they write, great songs. Yeah.
But why is Philadelphia so soulful?
That's a good question. Well, of course, being the city of brotherly love,
Uh-huh.
I think it was a good cross section of like a burgeoning East Coast, place for musicians to get together. A lot of, like you said, bands.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Philly sound. A lot of that was not so much just one person. You hear about Gamble Huff and all that, but it was those musicians that were in the studio that all played on the same records, but getting together, that city of brotherly love, and you'd have. Then the orchestra would play on it. You had these 67-year-old people, playing on these little fast songs and stuff. But it was people coming together to make great music, and genius arrangers. They're just now, I don't know if you heard, they're doing a documentary on the Philly sound.
Oh.
Netflix. Some big directors, I guess, behind it. I forgot his name, but it's focusing on Gamble, Huff and Bell and Philly sound. So I'm glad they're all 3 still here. Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff, and Tom Bell.
That's pretty incredible.
That's awesome. You talked a little bit about you have a record label or a record.
Yes, it's a record label that since 2017 I co-own it with David Nathan, who's most known as being a journalist. He used to write a lot, and still does write a lot of album liner notes. Big writer for Billboard magazine, then Blues and Soul, which was in the UK. And then, so based on his experience in the music industry, he secured a distribution deal with Warner. And we do primarily digital releases, but sometimes we do hard copy. And we release product every 6 weeks.
Ooh.
So sometimes it's a single, like we have a single on Chubby Tavares coming out next Friday. Sometimes it's an album, sometimes it's a collection. But that keeps me busy. I also have a podcast, I guess you call it a webisode, once a month. It's called Keeping It Real. And we either have interviews with artists we work with, or sometimes it's just artists we know that are interesting. And then we have an hour of just music that we release. I know it's kind of vain, but people seem to like it.
That's awesome.
And the company, by the way, is called my half of it is called Platinum Garage Recordings, PGR. And then it's through Soul Music Records. So the website is soulmusicrecords.com.
And then say the name of the label again?
Platinum Garage Recordings. So it's Platinum Garage Recordings, Soul Music, Warner.
Gotcha. How do you guys put out a song like that frequently? That's fast.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too.
It's like while we're getting it together, and well, David's more the administrator. He gets all the parts together that need to go to the distributor and everything. I'm more the creative, but he does write great songs.
Yeah.
And so that helps that we both have our role, and we're always thinking ahead, like, okay, what's next, you know? And then we divide it. Sometimes, like if I've done a whole album, we try and do a single first, kind of the old style that way. And then once you build up a catalog, like we have, we're able to now release collections. You know, whether it be, I have a series called Love and Compassion. I'm in my 4th volume now, and every song on the album is kind of a message song. It's not really a romantic kind of love. It's more like love for humanity. And it was kind of brought on by a lot of the things that are happening in the world, and maybe a need for love and compassion. So every song I make sure lyrically it meets that criteria, but it could be all kinds of songs musically. And it could be everything from established artists to brand new artists.
Do you have a favorite song that you've written?
To be honest, no. I mean, I've been asked that before, so I do have ones that I like, but they're not necessarily the ones that were hits. Now, if you ask me, of the ones that were the top 10 hits or whatever, it might be "We Don't Have to Take Our Clothes Off." I'd like it because it has a lot of legs, so to speak. Like, you know, came out back in the 80s, and it was an up-tempo, kind of a dance thing that had a cool little message. And then in the, I think it was late 90s, early 2000s, it was a ballad by a lady, Ellie Heyer. And that's the version of a lot of these singers on The Voice and American Idol. They do that slow version. So, and then it just got released again by a dance artist. So, and then a hip hop artist named Gym Class Heroes did it, but they called it "We Have to Take Our Clothes." So it has a lot of versions.
That's so cool.
Have you, in fact, ever had cherry wine?
You know, I do drink wine, but I don't know. I didn't realize.
Next time we get together, I'm gonna buy some cherry wine.
I guess it is a thing. I know. Who's that? Tommy James and the Shondells. They had a song called "Sweet Cherry Wine," right?
Yeah, yes, they did. Didn't they? Yeah. So how does that lyric pop in there then? Like,
I don't know. Maybe I thought that it was common. Maybe I think that's one of the reasons why it was catchy, because then I found out later it wasn't so common. You know, or maybe the red wine. Maybe that's cherry wine. I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? That's funny though, right? Like that. This the words. Well, this is a Maurice thing, right? When we talked to Allie Willis, you know, he said to her, like, "Don't let the words get in the way of the groove."
Yeah. He taught me. I mean, that's his thing.
Yeah.
He taught me the same thing, unbeknownst about all these things, but with the body, because you know, I also know he just in the early Earth, Wind and Fire records, I always said, wow, their concept and their lyrics are so, you know, kind of deep, you know. And so that's one of the things that when I heard they were calling me, I was a little intimidated, like, how am I gonna? And when we started writing, he was saying so very simple things, and I was kind of like, is that you Maurice? I mean, you're saying things like, go to the park after dark. You know, I'm like, is this really Maurice? But
go to the park after dark. A lot of times the lyrics are simple, but maybe that is all the song needs, is just
right.
Simplicity.
That's what I learned. Just you know, don't throw, if you're doing commercial music and you want to make people feel good, like September, that's a feel good song.
Yeah.
I mean, body, everybody, every language can sing that.
They played it in the car on the way over, and we were all singing it.
See that? So it taught me a lot. Yeah.
What do you got?
Let's see. What are some components that make a good R&B song in your mind, in your experience?
Well, I think we were just talking about feel, so I think that's important. Even if it's a ballad, the song that got Song of the Year this past year at the Grammys was a ballad. It was Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak, "Leave the Door Open." Okay, that's a ballad, but it felt good, at least to me. And I mean, I've seen kids 5 years old to grandmas 80 years old singing that song. So feel has a lot to do with that. I think, on the R&B side.
A lot of modern popular music is, as you get older, you're like, we've heard this before, right? So things can kind of bunch together that sound a lot alike. But there is a lot of soul music and R&B music that's going on. Maybe it just doesn't get to the top of the charts right now.
I think there's a lot
of
that going on, because a lot of people ask me, what do you think of music now? It's kind of junk, huh? What do you think of R&B music? A lot of it's junk. And what I always say, because I've discovered that the very thing you just said, there's a lot of great music being made, but it doesn't rise to the top. Like maybe back in the day, the Cream rose to the top, or maybe there wasn't as much music. I think the fact that every Joe can afford to have a little home studio. Not every Joe can write great songs. Not every Joe can. So you get a lot of stuff out there now and people could put out your own. Back then you could put out your own music.
Right.
So now you do have a lot of people making great music, but you also have a lot of people making terrible music, and so a lot of that gets noticed.
Yeah, I was looking at one of my buddies sent a chart from 1987 in May, because that's the year we graduated, and it's just always remarkable. Like this is the top 20, and I don't remember all, but Cutting Crew was number one. And, Prince, Michael Jackson, but also I think Duran had a song. I mean,
yeah, real diverse, huh?
Super diverse. Is that better, you think, for the industry, or
definitely? Okay. Well, I don't want to be biased, but I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. So to me, that was the best time. And then I also have learned that United States is not the only game in town. You talk about diversity. Europe was even more, and it's still. I think more diverse than we are. The UK, their charts, the top 20 can have everything from, a real hardcore rock song to a real hardcore hip hop song to a real stupid sing-along song, all in the top 10.
And the radio doesn't play as much of a role as it used to, because it used to be, you had the guy breaking songs. And, could an album like yours and Kenny G's, like the stuff you guys did, can that even exist anymore, where you take something that's so expected to break out? I mean, the music is great, right?
Okay, but it's really exposure and need. I think there was a need for that, but also maybe it filled the gap. There wasn't much of that going on. It's funny that I say that because, the song Songbird was the one that broke through. But Kenny was and is so much more than just Songbird. We did an album that had a lot of funky stuff on there, and the boy could play his behind off. But I think what helped it be successful was the time, because he had a couple of really good albums out before that with Kashif, but maybe it wasn't the right time. Not only time as far as life, but his time. Like, I think the record company had just put the word to him that you're about to get dropped. So I think he put his heart and soul into this, knowing that if I don't do something, I'm gonna get dropped. Go back to Seattle. Now, fortunately, unbeknownst to him, he just invested a little bit of money into Starbucks. And then so that took off. And even if he wasn't a successful sax player, he would have made some good money at Starbucks.
That's also something different about this era. We were talking about someone else who invested in Tesla very early on. In the old days, if you had a little extra money, it didn't go to things like start a company. You'd be buying to a car wash or something. And there's nothing wrong with some of these things, but you're getting hit with things that are like, hey, how about you invest in this great idea, as opposed to, you have these corporations coming that end up being not just hits, but like I made more money on coffee than music.
I know. It's interesting. Everything's expanding now. And if you have that view, one of the, I guess, kind of sad things I see is, I'm in my early 60s, but I see musicians and writers and producers my age and older maybe kind of giving up. Like, it ain't like it used to be, and everything's changed, moved so fast. I'm just gonna hang up my hat as far as songwriting, whatever. But I'm more fascinated. Like, wow, what's that? Okay, I got grandkids too. They help me with that. Papa, look at this. I'm like, whoa, that's amazing that it does. Just equipment or technology. So I think if we have a little more open mind as far as people my age, then they're able to stay. Because people ask me, why, wow, you're still making records? You're still, I call them records.
Yeah.
You're still making music? Yeah. You're still excited about it? Yeah. I think that's part of my life. Part of it, it's really, it's like food to me. I gotta have that music. I'd rather write a song than eat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you have any current favorite R&B artists that are like
current artists?
Currently,
apart from Sage, of course.
yes.
Oh, okay.
Obviously.
Yeah, you do R&B?
I do.
All right. Oh, cool.
Mainly the contemporary R&B.
Nice. Wow. I mentioned. I don't know if you would call him contemporary. I mentioned his name earlier. I like Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak. I like John Batiste. What that album he did. It's a good cross section of stuff. Kendrick Lamar. I wouldn't call that R&B, but hip hop. It's got some little bit of the R&B samples in there.
Totally.
So let's see. Female wise, what's the girl's name? I just got her album too. Allegra.
Snow
Allegra.
Allegra.
Yeah.
It's like one of my favorite
Really?
artists and biggest influences. Yeah.
I love her stuff
Yeah,
too.
she's awesome.
Yes.
When you're sitting on the couch in the Glassonomics headquarters with Preston, and you're a young artist like say, what do you say to someone like this, like mentorship wise, and really to anybody who is in their garage or like they're like, I can make great music. How do I go from making to great? What you've talked a lot about your process, but what should they do?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. Not only if you want to, make it your career, and because I'm learning this too now. Back in the day, I could just, let me just put it like this: you always have to have perseverance. I think that's what helped me when I was chasing after my idol, that kind of thing. Flew 3,000 miles, so that helped me having perseverance. But I didn't. Even my early days as producing, I could just make the music, make the recordings, and then go on to the next one. These days, you have to make the music and then be involved with almost like you're a parent. Like when the music or the song gets out into the world, you have to nurture it. Make sure it has the right packaging or the right clothes.
Yeah.
So make sure that you see the song through, or the production through, or whatever it is. To the finish.
Yeah. Yeah. The one of the things too that a concept I've been exploring with a lot of people, authors especially, but you're really a CEO of your own small business.
Yeah.
And as a songwriter, the last thing you want to be doing is like expense reports and accounts receivable, accounts payable, but really you running this business, and you don't want to have to hire 25 people to do things that you can handle yourself. So talk about that aspect of the business side of it. Like how do you develop leads, and how do you market, and how do you do sales and all the other things?
Yeah, it's important to be aware to one pivot person in my little corner. It's my wife. She's been doing it for 30 years.
Yeah.
Calls management, but it's basically just whatever because it changes on every, whatever the need is, I have somebody there to kind of fulfill it, and then I can focus on my writing.
Yeah.
But you can't just, I don't want to say that. I was going to say you can't just be a songwriter. I think to be successful, you kind of need to, like I just said, see it through. Once the song's done, then put on the other hat. and make sure the business part goes through.
Totally. I don't have any other questions.
When you want to fill the pipeline, right? Like when the calls are coming in a little slower, you want to stay relevant. How do you go about that specifically to fill the pipe with more opportunities?
Well, it goes back to maybe the roots. I actually go back to writing songs. I used to write a song every day.
Okay.
I used to have a program or a formula where back when I was a teenager, okay, I wrote this song yesterday, I'm going to write this one today, and da-da-da. I don't do that now on purpose. I make sure there's space so I get excited about writing again. But when there's lull time, which is not that much so far, knock on wood.
Yeah.
But I always go back to writing, sitting at the piano, playing guitar, or I love, and I'm a fan of music, so I listen.
Yeah.
And maybe I don't have a lot of time to listen to whether it's new music or music I used to listen to, but when I have lull time, I go back to listening, and that usually inspires me. It gives me ideas sometimes about the business too. Like, what if we try something like this?
Because you can create things, especially you here in your studio. Do you ever just I think the last time we had you on the show, you had just released an album, and you're like, this is like a showcase. Like, we're gonna, these are some songs I had, and I want to get them out, and so you created a whole album. But do you think about doing something like that where you're already creating a song? Was it a week? You said? I mean, that's already a lot.
Every 6 weeks we put
Every
out.
6 weeks, you put out a song.
We release
Right.
a song, but yeah, we have collections. Like, let's see, I just released. There's at the end. Whoop, I'm sorry about that. Just released a collection called Soulful Splendor, which took 11 songs that we had previously on different projects, and all of them kind of fell into a ballad kind of thing, whether it be mid-tempo or slow. And so we put them all on a collection that came out last month. So we're constantly, me and my business partner, David Nathan in Europe, are constantly trying to think ahead of what's the next release, what's doing. We look back to and see, well, this project's doing well. Why don't we do another one like that? Or this one didn't do so well. Let's discontinue that collection or whatever. Yeah. So it keeps me busy, that's for sure.
What are your goals for the next couple of years? Where do you hope to go in music in your career?
Good question. Well, the couple of new artists that we just worked with and finished one of those projects, we're working on the other one. I want to be involved in their careers and help them to develop what their goals are, help establish our little label. I got a new venture as well called R&B Forever, which is going to have another distribution system, and it's going to focus on mainly acts that already had success from the 70s, 80s, 60s, whatever, that are still doing it. And it'll also be released through Warner. And that's more of a development project, so that'll keep me busy.
When you approach Warner, I mean, obviously you've had a lot of success and sold a lot of albums with them. Otherwise, they're not taking those meetings. But because there's so much production, so many people doing things, are they pretty much open to whatever ideas you have?
They seem to be.
Yeah.
And fortunately, the one little label that David Nathan and I have has done well. So now they're like, what else you got? That kind of thing. So
yeah,
it helps.
Again, back to platinum records all over this room and everything. At some point, you write a song, you're like, this is going to make babies. People are they're going to fall in love to this song. It's going to be their song. I mean, platinum records on the wall, one thing, but you're actually creating or helping to ignite physical, like, forever love for people.
Yeah, this is really a blessing, even though I've been doing it for, let's see, over 50 years.
Yeah.
It's still new to me. Like I always picture sitting down at the piano or at the guitar, like having a empty canvas, and I have a pencil or a black pen, and then all of a sudden I have a picture when the song is done. Then I picture arranging or producing as if I'm going to paint that same picture, you know. Or you could have a song. You see, I have two different hats. I'm a songwriter, but then I'm also a producer. As a producer, I might take someone else's song. Like you might present a song to me. I have this great song, but I need the right arrangement, the right production. So I take your drawing. I'll say, I can put aqua there. I could put maroon, fuchsia. So I get excited about those two processes: the drawing, the writing, and then the arranging. You know, with the different colors.
Do you do all your work right here in the studio? Is this where the magic happens?
Most of the time, but the writing. I have a grand piano in the house, so I something old school about that. I like sitting down at the piano. And because a lot of people I know, especially in the R&B world, they'll construct a track or they'll get a track and then they'll write to that. I don't.
That's what I do.
And nothing wrong with that, but because I can construct a track, I still believe, okay, feel is important, which you can have from a track. You can get a good feel from a track. I think that the song is really important, whether it's the melody, the rhythm of the melody, or the lyric, or the title, or the theme. And then once you have that song, you can, like I said, paint. You can construct that arrangement any way you want. You can make it feel real good with the track. You can even, you know, change different styles. You can make it Brazilian. You can make it jazzy. You can make it just funky. You know, I think it's important. That's why I like to. I mean, I can. There was a period where I would just do tracks and then write something over the top. But it kind of limits me. Like, oh, I can't do that melody because the chords didn't do that, or the changes. But when I'm at the piano and I can do whatever I want melodically or whatever I want lyrically, and then once it's done, then I can do whatever I want track wise. So I don't know. That's maybe it's an old school way of looking at it.
Yeah. But taking that old school way, sometimes the old school and the new school have to match up. Natalie did that with her dad, you know, kind of.
Right.
That was
That's
beautiful,
true.
right?
Yeah.
I keep waiting for somebody to come back with like a trombone solo, like to the big band era, you know, with Tommy Dorsey and those guys, because it was such a beautiful lyrical instrument, you know, and it's
trombone.
It's gone from the solo world, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, you got to be a good player too. But I guess it depends on the song, you know. I'll hear, because I come from that the Tom Bell thing where he had oboes, you know, and all that.
Yeah.
I'll throw something weird in there. And a lot of times people at these record companies, they don't know what that is, but they like it.
Yeah.
What is that?
We had Paul on the show the other day, and Paul plays bassoon,
Oh,
and he
nice.
puts guitar effects on it.
Oh,
and he's
nice.
completely changed that instrument.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, it's really crazy.
Yeah, that's what I love about getting into the engineering of whether it's Logic, which is what I have, or Pro Tools.
Yeah.
There's so much crazy stuff you can do. And then, you know, I'll finish a track and people will go, what is that? And I'll say, I don't know.
A plug-in.
I like it. Yeah, that's what it is. You know, I might take a vocal and put some real spacey something on it. And it sounds like an instrument.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's so many plugins you can have.
I
My
know.
producer and I will sit and go through like all of the thousands, and it's so fun. And it's crazy.
And yes, it can get a little you have to kind of balance it. Like, wow, you could spend just weeks on just a certain sound, getting the right, and then you're like, what? I don't have a track or a song. So you gotta balance it out, I guess.
What instrument is missing from modern hit level music? Like, what do you like when you see that canvas and what they painted? You're like, oh man, why didn't they, you know, just get a good pocket drummer to sit back or whatever it is? What do you want to hear more of?
Ooh. I don't know if there's much missing. It depends on what you're listening to. I know there what I hear too much of,
Yeah.
which is the you know the machiney
Yeah.
sounding drums.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've kind of gotten away from that. Even though I will use machine, I might take the quantize off.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a guy sitting there.
Yeah.
Or I might, like I said, I just sampled one of Stevie's tracks of
Yeah.
Superstition, and then I'll flip it, change the tempo of it, so it sounds like maybe a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fun part of technology is taking what they did and then okay, I'm gonna just flip this.
Yeah. You got any questions?
No.
What? No more questions?
No more questions.
You got a question for Sage?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who are your influences artist wise?
Definitely Snow Allegra. I love R&B. Beyonce, Ariana Grande, some more contemporary R&B people like Sabrina Claudio, but I'm also really influenced by like jazz and R&B. Cool. So like Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald. I've recently gone into Peggy Lee.
Oh, great!
I just found her old album. What is it called? Things Are Swinging, and it's
I
like
have to
on
check
repeat.
I know she was great.
It's
yeah,
so good.
Well, that's. I think it's great to go back to before I go back to before I was born, even listen to some of those recordings and stuff.
Yeah.
Because people were artists; they just didn't have the whether it's the technology or that we have, but they had the voice or the instrumentation.
Music is music.
Yeah, music is music.
And
I like that. That's a good song.
Oh, thanks. Write it down on your song titles and we'll get cracking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you like any of those artists, you can check out my music. It's under Sage Logan on all platforms.
Okay.
SAGE.
SAGE.
Yes,
okay.
And then Logan.
We'll like to do that.
Yeah.
When's your next song due out?
I'm releasing actually 2 new songs within like the next 3 weeks.
Wow.
So
exciting. Great.
Yeah. Very
What's
exciting.
the names of those?
Well, I have old music out under my legal name, and I recently just like switched my name and kind of am rebranding myself. So I have an entire album, an EP out under my old name, Sage Bingham, and now I just released my first single 2 months ago called Contemplating Getting Over You, and then I'm releasing 2 more songs to build this discography up on my new profile.
That's a new thing, huh? Branding.
Yes.
But it's important. One of the things that you mentioned, Warner, and what they're looking at. When I mentioned R&B Forever, they said, "Oh, that's a great branding name." I said, "Okay." I made sure. They said, "Do you have that trademark?" And of course, I said yes, but after I got off the road,
get this.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. That's funny. Chris Thomas King he's become a friend also, and he was talking about trying to stay relevant. He's like, I get called all the time for blues because he's, the go-to guy for that. And he's like, a lot of times they just want instrumental stuff. So I just started creating like a song, basically a song a week for him, and he grabs his guitar and he just does what he's built to do is he plays those things. But even he's trying to like, here's a guy that's won multiple Grammys. And he's like, how do I stay relevant? Right. And he's like, I've just got to produce more music.
Yeah.
And probably loves to do it too.
Oh yeah. I mean, you watch him light up. He'll talk about other stuff, but when he starts talking about actually getting to play, all he wants to do is perform. He's like, put your masks on so we can go back to work. That's all he cares. He's like, there's no statement. He's like, let me get out and play these blues, and we need them to. Wait, you have New Orleans roots, don't you?
Yeah. My mom was born and raised there, and a lot of our family still lives in New Orleans.
Yeah, right. The other day I was driving back from doing a show, and I popped by Jelly Roll Morton's gravesite.
Wow.
And I'm like, here's one of the guys that we all owe a debt to because him and his friends started all of it, the blues, jazz, rock and roll. It all comes from that New Orleans sound.
I think that's why I like that. I mentioned his name, or John Batiste album, because it gets a lot of that from there, but it's done in a modern way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything for you in closing?
Not really. Just keep loving the music and loving each other.
I like that. Let's try to do that. All right, stand by for 1 second.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly. Thank you so much